make sense of what's happening as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Hello, you're watching Race to Power. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. On the show today, a look at Bangladesh. Just 48 hours before the elections in the country, tight security is in place. The interim chief, Muhammad Yunus, has urged citizens to come out and decide on who they want as their government. We get you all the details. We also tell you how there are growing demands for US Secretary to Howard Lutnick to actually resign over his alleged link to Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, he's the Commerce Secretary and he's been pressured to resign. The White House has denied it, but what are the Democrats saying? We get you the details, the latest coming up in just a bit. Well, let's begin with Bangladesh. Bangladesh is set to vote on the 12th of February. With less than 48 hours left for the voting to begin, campaigning has officially ended. During the cooling off period, voters will mull over their final decision. This is the first election since the 2024 uprising that ended the 15-year rule of the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Political parties have made their final campaign pitch. Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, is eyeing a massive victory. Pre-election surveys forecast the BNP chairperson Tariq Rahman, who is the son of the former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia, as a front-runner to lead the next government. On the final day of the campaigning in Dhaka, Tariq Rahman urged voters to back the party.
What do we need to run the country? Experience. Programs and plans are needed to run the country. Dear brothers and sisters, among all the political parties in Bangladesh, only BNP has a concrete plan served in front of the people.
But the BNP faces a strong challenge from a coalition led by the Islamist Jamaat-e-Islami, which was once banned for opposing Bangladesh's India-backed 1971 independence. Analysts claim that Jamaat is now expected to achieve its strongest electoral performance till date, even if it does not win. Polls are giving an edge to Tariq Rahman-led BNP. According to the ILLD survey, Jamaat is giving a close fight to the BNP, with both sides separated by just 0.1% of vote share. But the other poll paints a contradicting picture. A survey by Eminence Associates for Social Development says that BNP has a clear edge with over 66% vote share. Jamaat, on the other hand, is trailing behind with 21% vote. Bangladesh, remember, is also holding a national referendum on constitutional reforms. This is in line with the July National Charter. Voters will have to cast a single yes or no ballot on a package proposal. These will be binding on all the political parties of Bangladesh, meaning whoever comes to power will have to implement these reforms. The major proposals under the July Charter are conditions for free and fair elections, seeking to mandate and make caretaker governments mandatory before elections, while ensuring independence of the Judiciary and Election Commission. The Charter also demands formation of a new House. The new Senate will be a 100-member House that will be elected on proportional representation basis. Apart from this, the referendum will seek approval on 30 reform proposals, including increased representation of women in the parliament. Bangladesh's interim government leader, Muhammad Yunus, has called on people to vote yes for the referendum for the future of Bangladesh. More than 127 million voters are eligible to cast their ballot. The election and the referendum could prove to be a pivotal point as Bangladesh turns the page after Sheikh Hasina's ouster. Bangladesh will hold its 13th parliamentary elections on Thursday along with a concurrent national referendum. Their votes will pave the way for the next government formation following the interim administration.
What I want from the next government is simple. Reduce inflation for working class people like us. Factory workers' wages also need to increase. It's becoming impossible to support a family with what we earn.
One of my primary hopes was that there would be more women leaders, which is disappointing because I don't see that many women leaders.
We won't even go to the polling center in this election because the Awami League is not participating. I don't want to cast my vote at all. Whoever else is running doesn't concern us.
And specification. We want a specification and clarification from our political leader to how to solve this unemployment problem, especially for youth.
And for the latest, we earlier spoke with Mohammad Zahidur Rabi, who joined us from Dhaka.
Okay, the mood on the ground with campaigning finally being over, the mood is kind of mixed and cautious as the people are, as the campaign is over, the people are now more concerned about the process of the vote. They're concerned about security. They're concerned on how they're going to vote. The first-time voters, they're seeking advices from the elderly. They're asking them about how to vote and where to go and put the whole conduct. In the other cases, the security has been tightened, and in Dhaka, rallies, counter rallies, everything has went well. And so we're just waiting for the vote, I guess. The people are waiting for the vote.
Well, shifting our focus to the UK now, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in the eye of a political storm. The fallout after Epstein-Mandelson link has sent shockwaves in British politics. Keir Starmer has stood his ground amid calls to resign, but there are questions on whether he can sustain through his remaining term. Earlier in the day, Keir Starmer held a meeting with his cabinet at 10 Downing Street. The ministers have rallied around their Prime Minister. According to the reports published in British media, Starmer asked ministers not to release their messages with former US Ambassador Peter Mandelson. This comes after his Secretary of State for Health released his chats with Mandelson. Now, Keir Starmer, remember, is facing flack for appointing Peter Mandelson as ambassador to US. Critics accuse Starmer of knowing that Mandelson had maintained links with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The British Prime Minister has lost 2 top aides in the last 2 days. Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, has resigned on Sunday last for advising Starmer to appoint Mandelson. Following him, Starmer's communications chief, Tim Allen, quit on Monday this week. This may not be the end of departures. According to reports, the Cabinet Secretary, Chris Wormald, may also be forced out of his job. Wormald took up the role only a few days before Mandelson's appointment was formally announced. The government has announced to release all the documents regarding the vetting process leading up to Mandelson's appointment as the UK envoy to America. The Epstein fallout comes at a time when Keir Starmer's popularity is already low. According to a YouGov poll, his own popularity stands at 18% at the moment, with Labour Party falling behind their Conservative rivals, and Reform UK led by Nigel Farage. Mandelson's saga certainly does not help Starmer's poor popularity, but it could drag it further down, with more elections coming up in less than 3 months. Some parts of UK have local elections as well. Remember, Wales and Scotland have parliamentary polls, and mayoral elections are also due across England. Scotland's Labour leader, Anas Sarwar, has called for Starmer to step down. He called Mandelson-Epstein scandal a failure of Downing Street. The opposition parties have seized the moment to launch attacks on the Labour Party. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has called the entire saga a, quote, Labour psychodrama.
The Prime Minister is the architect of his own misfortunes, and all of the chaos and instability we're seeing is completely self-inflicted. This is a Labour psychodrama right now. We're all living in Labour's psychodrama.
Addressing a party rally in Birmingham, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage said that Starmer's days are numbered in Downing Street as the party prepares for a possible election scenario.
Decades. And I'll tell you something. Spare a thought for Downing Street this afternoon, where the curtains are drawn and the political life of the most unpopular and most useless Prime Minister in living memory is drawing to a close.
And for more on this, let me go across to our correspondent, Ollie Barrett, who's joining us from London. Ollie, despite repeated assurances by Prime Minister Keir Starmer, clearly the opposition is unrelenting. Despite the kind of resignations that we've seen in the last 2 days, clearly the situation isn't helping the British Prime Minister.
The situation is very difficult for the British Prime Minister. That is absolutely the case. He is probably feeling a bit safer today in his job than he did on Monday. He has the backing now of every single member of his cabinet. He has the backing of Angela Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister, often considered by many as a potential leadership challenger. He has the backing today of Andy Burnham, not currently an MP, but also considered a potential Labour leadership challenger in the future. Now, that's not to say that Keir Starmer is out of the woods yet. There are all sorts of potential moments of difficulty coming down the road for him. The publication of many of those documents related to Peter Mandelson, for example, the upcoming by-election in the north of England towards the end of this month, the local and regional elections in May as well. But certainly Keir Starmer is attempting to show that the government is now able to move forward. We had all sorts of pictures of cabinet ministers around the cabinet table in Downing Street today, beaming away and trying to put on a show of unity and strength. We had them all leaving Downing Street at the end of the meeting, smiling from ear to ear and insisting they are in full support of Keir Starmer. But he knows that the polling is absolutely awful for him and for his Labour Party at the moment, and that's part of the reason that Nigel Farage of Reform and Kemi Badenoch of the Conservatives are going so hard for Keir Starmer at the moment. This is certainly a week in which it looks like Keir Starmer will now survive for now, but many Labour MPs will tell you the government really needs a huge reset if it's to stand any chance of surviving beyond the short term. And you mentioned some of those figures who are on the way out of Keir Starmer's government. He has some decisions to make about exactly who are going to be appointed in those posts, so he can try and show his best foot forward in the days, weeks, months ahead. Of course, the next UK election, in terms of a general election, could be 3 years or so away from now. At the moment, it still looks very hard for Keir Starmer to get there as leader of his party and Prime Minister, but he insists that is his aim.
You know, Ollie, while Keir Starmer mulls his next few steps and his next few appointments, I want to understand from you how the Conservatives and Nigel Farage are actually strategizing their way forward, because they have been, upping the ante, putting pressure on Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. Of course, Prime Minister Starmer has refused to resign, but what does their strategy look like?
Their strategy is to keep the pressure on as much as possible, to paint a picture of a weak Prime Minister, of a chaotic number 10 Downing Street, of a government that's not getting anything done. And conversely, of course, the strategy from Keir Starmer and his government is to try and show that that is not true. They will try and roll out all sorts of opportunities to show the things that they say they're doing up and down the country to make people's lives better. And that is really the argument and the fight that's going to play out here in the UK political sphere in the days and weeks ahead.
All right, Ollie Barrett, thanks very much for joining us with the latest. Let's wait and see what really happens in the next few weeks and months for Prime Minister Keir Starmer. All right, let's move on now. Calls are growing for the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to resign. This, remember, after the latest release of the Epstein files revealed fresh details about Lutnick's ties with the late convicted sex offender. The lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are now gunning for Lutnick's head. Republican Congressman Thomas Massey, who co-authored a law mandating the release of the so-called Epstein files, said, and I quote, "Lutnick should make life easier on the president, frankly, and just resign." Massey even added that if this were Great Britain, he'd already be gone. While Democrat Representative Ro Khanna demanded that Lutnick be brought before the Congress, he said that Lutnick should resign from the cabinet as he was not transparent about his ties with Epstein.
In this country, we have to make a decision. Are we going to allow rich and powerful people who were friends and had no problem doing business and showing up with a pedophile who was raping underage girls, are we just going to allow them to skate? Or like other countries, are we going to have elite accountability and have accountability for the people who did that? Most Americans believe we need accountability.
The fresh disclosures reveal that the U.S. Commerce Secretary discussed visiting Epstein's island in 2012, 4 years after the disgraced financier was sentenced to 13 months in prison for procuring a minor for prostitution. The Epstein and Lutnick-related emails show correspondence about travel arrangements and political fundraising, among other things. Lutnick and Epstein were neighbors in Manhattan's Upper East Side. Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary apparently visited Epstein's private island for lunch in 2012 and invited him to a fundraiser in 2015 for Hillary Clinton, Trump's Democratic rival in the 2016 presidential polls. This contradicts Howard Lutnick's claim that he vowed never to be in the room with Epstein. In fact, Lutnick made that statement following a 2005 incident in which the financier showed him a massage table at his townhouse and made a sexually suggestive comment. A Commerce Department spokesperson said that Lutnick had limited interactions with Epstein and has never been accused of any wrongdoing.
120,000 jobs, and since that time.
And shifting our focus now to India, where the face-off between the Bharatiya Janata Party-led ruling government and the Congress party took a turn for the worse today, as the opposition submitted a notice seeking to move a no-confidence motion against Om Birla, the Speaker of the Indian Parliament's lower house, Lok Sabha. As per reports, the notice was signed by around 118 members of the parliament belonging to parties including Congress, Samajwadi Party and the DMK. According to sources, Om Birla has decided not to attend the proceedings of the House on moral grounds until the disposal of the notice. It is likely to be discussed on the 9th of March. If 50 MPs back the motion, the chair will initiate a discussion on this. In this notice, the opposition has accused the Speaker of blatant partisanship. They allege that opposition leaders, especially the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, is invariably not allowed to speak. The MPs also highlighted that no action was taken against BJP's MP Nishikant Dubey for allegedly making objectionable comments on two former Indian Prime Ministers. These MPs also accused Om Birla of falsely accusing the Congress members of planning a disruptive act during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address in the Lok Sabha. Meanwhile, BJP national spokesperson Sambit Patra came down heavily on the opposition for seeking to oust the Lok Sabha Speaker. He slammed the Congress for harboring an entitled approach.
मगर मैं एक बात कहना चाहूंगा कांग्रेस पार्टी को और खास करके राहुल गांधी को, आप इतने एंटाइटल्ड हैं, आप इतने एंटाइटल्ड महसूस करते हैं अपने आप को कि आप कोई नियम नहीं मानेंगे, आप सदन का कोई भी कानून नहीं मानेंगे और उसके ऊपर आप कहेंगे कि हम किसी पर विश्वास नहीं करते, अविश्वास लेकर आएंगे।
This development comes in the backdrop of the parliament witnessing ugly scenes last week. A sharp row broke out after Om Birla barred Rahul Gandhi to quote from the unpublished memoir of the former Indian Army Chief General Naravne regarding the 2020 India-China border crisis. 8 opposition MPs were suspended as well by the Speaker for the unruly behaviour in the House. The situation escalated further as the Lok Sabha Speaker revealed that he advised the Prime Minister to stay away from the House, citing information that opposition MPs were prepared to protest in an unprecedented manner. Since India's independence, there have been at least 3 unsuccessful attempts to remove a Lok Sabha Speaker. While the no-confidence motion is unlikely to succeed this time as well, as the BJP-led government has a majority in the lower house, it is being perceived as a symbolic move to question the moral authority of the Speaker. The Delhi police have registered an FIR over the circulation of a preprint copy of 4 Stars of Destiny, which is the memoir of former Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Mukund Naravne, on social media. The special cell has launched an investigation into the alleged leak of the yet-to-be-approved publication. A political row erupted in the parliament after leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, sought to quote excerpts from this memoir during his speech on the motion of thanks on the president's address last week. The Treasury bench strongly opposed his remarks. Now, Penguin Random House, that holds the publishing rights, said that the book has not gone into publication. It said that no copies of the book in print or in digital form have been published, distributed, sold, or otherwise made available to the public by them. In fact, it also said that any copies currently in circulation in any format or in any platform constitute a copyright infringement and must be immediately seized. General Naravne reposted the statement released by the publisher on social media platform X. The former Army Chief's post read, and I quote, "This is the status of the book." Well, shifting our focus now to Iran, weeks after repressing a wave of protests, Iran has now taken a 2-track approach. It is rounding up and jailing perceived critics, while at the same time pursuing a potential diplomatic opening with the United States. A spokesperson for the main reformist coalition told local media that Iran's Revolutionary Guards have arrested the group's spokesperson Javad Imam along with 4 others. Several activists and filmmakers who co-signed a protest statement were detained as well. Iran's government has branded the protests as riots fueled by Israel and US. In a statement on Monday this week, the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, urged people to show resolve against foreign pressure. However, alongside its defiant pronouncements, Iran has signaled that it could come to some kind of deal to dial back its nuclear program to avoid further conflicts. Local media reported that Iranian Atomic Agency chief Mohammad Eslami had said that Tehran could dilute its highly enriched uranium in return for sanctions relief. Diluting or down-blending uranium means mixing it with other substances to reduce the enrichment level so the final product does not exceed a given threshold, thereby extending the amount of time that it would take Iran to create sufficient nuclear material for a bomb. At the talks in Oman last week, the US and Iran agreed to discuss Tehran's nuclear program, though Washington and Israel also want to put its ballistic missiles and support for regional militant groups on the agenda. Iranian officials have repeatedly ruled out putting Iran's missiles, which is one of the largest such arsenals in West Asia, up for discussions with US and Israel. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that the new round of nuclear negotiations is an appropriate opportunity for a fair and balanced resolution of Tehran's nuclear issue, calling on the US to avoid excessive demands.
The Islamic Republic of Iran, for its part, will take steps toward the success of this path and hopes that the other side will also remain committed to this objective and its requirements, without making excessive demands, so that a desirable outcome can be achieved.
Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi held separate calls with his Egyptian, Saudi and Turkish counterparts and described the talks with US as a good start, while emphasizing the need to dispel mistrust about the American side's intentions and objectives. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. As always, we'll keep getting you news and analysis from India and across the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yowon.com.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, world is one.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you.